Hey guys, so Tyler here, leader of the Reclamation Party, and today I thought we'd do a little bit of geopolitics in terms of the conversation today of what's kind of going on. There's a lot going on domestically. I'll get to that in another video I gotta do shortly, but I think we really got to spend a minute to talk about what's going on with the U.S. and rare earth minerals in Ukraine, and now the Congolese government is looking to have America come in and give its nation stability in exchange for its rare earth minerals. And we should talk about that. So some of you are probably wondering what's going on with that. Well, basically, there is the Republic of the Congo and there is the Democratic Republic of the Congo. These are two separate nations within Central Africa. And the Democratic Republic of the Congo is the larger of the two. It is, off the top of my head, I'd like to say it's the largest nation in Africa, but I may be mistaken on that, so don't hold me to that one. But it is certainly second, third at worst, but I don't believe it's any lower than second. Now, what's going on there is basically that the Congo has had problems for decades. They have been restabilized by the African Union on a couple occasions, and security has always been a major problem. What you need to understand in a nutshell, really quick, is there's few nations on Earth that hold access to actual mineral resources that are accessible at this very second, like the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Okay, the DRC holds immense amounts of gold, cobalt, lithium, even. The list is pretty much endless. Anything you can think of, they have in relatively large quantities. Now, there's a variety of reasons for that. We aren't going to get into the geology of that, but the U.S. is obviously attempting to blackmail Ukraine. Now, I'd like to clarify for Canadians what's kind of going on there with that. So the U.S., even if you include the equipment, I don't know where Donald Trump's getting his numbers from, but if you look at the equipment and the actual funds that were sent to Ukraine, it's about 160 billion-ish. So I don't know where he's pulling numbers from, but frankly, it's pretty absurd. Now, I'd also like to make it abundantly clear that the majority of all the cash that was sent to Ukraine, certainly I would be more than happy to say that, well, not happy, but more than honestly willing to say that, yeah, there's corruption in the Ukrainian government. Some of that money's probably gone missing, but not half of it. Okay, not even close to half of it. And the vast majority of it has already, well, frankly, it never even went to Ukraine. It was given to Ukraine and then immediately used to purchase American weapons. Most of it, quite frankly, never even left the American Treasury. Yeah, I know. They make it sound otherwise, but that's actually how it's gone. The Americans are certainly setting themselves up to see Ukraine probably be in the worst position it's been in a long time since the war broke out. But I would say that they're setting Ukraine to be, if they pull Starlink out, they'll be setting Ukraine back to probably about 2014-ish problems. Okay, the ability to use Starlink for their drones is critical. Otherwise, they will have to, much like the Russians, who have been jammed for the most part, move over to fiber optic drones. Okay, fiber optic cabled drones. So these are drones that legitimately do exactly what you think they do. They run on a giant long cable. Yeah, but it does work. It's not jammable, not really. And they tend to hit their target. However, they drag a long cable along with them, and they are limited, obviously, in range. Where a lot of the Ukrainian ones that use Starlink, including what I believe they're calling the Baba Yaga, which is like a small aircraft, like a little micro Cessna with no occupants, just drone, and explosives. Those run entirely off Starlink, and those would have been hitting, along with some other types, into the Russian Federation itself. So if the Starlink is pulled out due to the minerals, the majority, the lion's share of the drone attacks in Russia will cease nearly immediately. And that's very interesting that the Americans are so quick to put Starlink on the table to pull out, when Elon Musk, even a year ago, was very loud that he was not interested in getting into the politics of the war and was going to basically leave Starlink there and let it do what it can do because, allegedly at the time, freedom. Now it would appear that freedom only is something you can have if you agree with the Americans as far as they're concerned. So, why the Congo? Now, I'll explain that in a second. So, as I said earlier, the Congo has had massive problems with its security. The M23 rebels that are there right now are Tutsi. Okay, so I'd like, especially the older Canadians, to go back in your memory and remember the early 90s Rwandan genocide. Okay, a lot of younger people weren't conscious. They weren't self-aware, because apparently I can't speak this morning. I haven't had enough coffee. So they weren't self-aware when that genocide occurred. They don't remember it. It's only written down here or there, even in Western history books, in terms of actually reading about it. Frankly, we learn more, at least in the Canadian education system, about Bosnia than we actually do about Rwanda. Okay. So, in a nutshell, again, to sum that up for those who don't know or don't remember, the Hutu majority basically attempted to cleanse the Tutsis. I say majority. They were the Tutsis were not a small minority. Okay, they had run the government in other areas for a long time, and there was a lot of accusations of abuse by the Hutus. Long story short, the genocide was a genocide by full use of the term. It was bad. Okay, guys, it was really bad. Now, Rwanda's recovered, and has recovered, or was believed to have recovered, its democracy. However, in the years recently, its Tutsi government has certainly turned its current leader into a dictator. Okay. Now, the M23 rebels are Tutsis, and there has been much in the way of both evidence and accusation that the Rwandan government is supplying them with weapons and even as far as manpower. So Rwandan Tutsi men may be active in Congo, military trained, I'd add, aiding M23 rebels. Why would they do this? Basically, the Democratic Republic of the Congo is a mess. It has been for decades on and off, and Rwanda has, relatively stabilized. Okay. Rwanda is tiny in comparison to the Congo. If you hop on Google Earth right now, go zoom yourself into Central Africa, and you will be shocked if you aren't already aware of the size difference of these two countries. Okay, this is David and Goliath. However, Goliath doesn't have any teeth and is in reality a shadow on the wall. Okay, the Congolese army is unequipped, basically. Okay, the classic AK-74M is about the main weapon. They have some very old artillery, really nothing in the way of tanks, and nothing in the way of aircraft. Okay, this is an army simply in terms of the word, but not in terms of the actual capability. All right, and the Rwandan army, although certainly not the best in Africa, has spent years expanding itself and its manpower capabilities. It is far more capable, and some weeks ago, the city of Garm fell to the M23 rebels in the Congo, and there were reports that Rwanda even shelled from a nearby mountain, because basically two cities meet there at the border, without me stretching out this video too long, and it's alleged that the Rwandan army shelled the resisting Congolese forces in Garm that were attempting to hold back the M23 rebels, and basically that whole defense collapsed in a day. It's more or less, in some sense of the word, a blitzkrieg, but not quite as efficient. A lot of this is being done by truck and on foot. But the current security situation in the Congo is a mess. The Rwandans deny everything. So do the Russians. Shocking. It doesn't matter what part of the world you're looking at when it comes to invasions and whatnot, right? There's always, I didn't do it. So, what can the U.S. gain there? Well, the U.S. is looking to tariff us and basically make a bad guy out of us for no reason other than whatever Donald Trump believes he read on Twitter one year, whenever, okay? And a critical opportunity is Ukraine right now, okay? If the Ukrainians sign the deal as it is now with the Americans will have access to, for an example, iron ore deposits to make steel into the next coming 2 centuries, give or take, okay? They will not need to import a single kilo of iron ore. They won't. They won't even need to open a new mine in America. This is Donald Trump's way of offsetting the fact that he probably has some advisors losing their mind a little bit at the infeasibility of operating his nation without us as a major trading partner in a cost-efficient way, okay? And it is reaching, it's reaching a pinnacle. And that pinnacle is now coming from the threats from Europe that they will completely cut off the Americans, that they will stop dealing with them entirely. France and Germany are having serious discussions about completely severing ties with the United States at the current moment. And in fact, looking at more or less European NATO on its own. Now, the Americans are preaching a lot of rhetoric that the Europeans couldn't survive without them. Plain and simple, that's nonsense. The French, in particular, have pretty much everything the Americans have in terms of military capability, just on a slightly smaller scale. Okay, the French are, jokes aside, because there's been lots of jokes, especially to history nuts like me, when it comes to the French, but the current French army is no joke, okay? I would also like to add, for my own humor, that they are the only nuclear power in the world to have a first strike policy. Yeah, the French have a first strike policy. A warning shot, actually, is what it's referred to as. Now, what the heck does that mean? Well, it means that if you're going to fudge around and find out with the French, they're going to fire a nuclear warhead and set it off in the atmosphere above your nation as a quote-unquote warning shot. Yeah, the French. They also have aircraft carriers and nuclear-powered submarines. I'm not certain if any of their aircraft carriers are nuclear-powered, like the American ones are. But regardless of that, there's still an absolute ton of potential for the French to take over in regards to being the military power in Europe. They're obviously pushing towards 5%. That's been going on for the last couple of days in terms of the conversation, but the French have always been wary in the world for a long time now. So the 5% isn't a shock. They make all their own stuff domestically. There's next to nothing imported from the French, or for the French, in regards to military. They are actually a military exporter. An example is the K2 Black Panthers from South Korea that I would like to buy for Canada and replace or add on to the Leopards with in terms of numbers. It's a tank with an autoloader, and that autoloader comes from the Leclerc tank, which is a French tank, main battle tank. And for a quick idea, that the average firing time is about 6 seconds for a Leopard or an Abrams, give or take the loader's own strength and capability. The Leclerc is about 3 to 4 seconds. It can empty, as well as the K2 Black Panther, can empty their entire ammo storage in 3 minutes or less. It's a serious capability that these tanks have. The French are no joke. They've taken this to a lot of equipment and made it very, very, very capable. So the French are ready to step into that realm if the Americans keep playing this game. So with the Ukrainian deal right now, it's been denied for the time being. We'll see where that leads and how that's going to pan out. But the Congo is certainly an area that I think the Americans likely won't want to get invested in. Donald Trump, frankly, doesn't seem to know what's going on geopolitically in the world. He's basically willing to throw well at we're America and do what he wants. But if he does that in the Congo, if he does go in to secure the Congo, he is setting America up for a lot of body bags, a lot of tombstones. The Africans in the Congo, in particular, want no part of what they would consider an American colonization. This is the desperation of the Congolese government because their army has been destroyed, basically. They are entirely attempting to recruit new brigades and get a battle group together in the sense of a land force. They're arming guys with AK-47s and putting 50 cals on the back of trucks, making them technicals. That's about what the Congolese army can come up with right now. Okay, so they're in a state of desperation, similar to the Ukrainians to a degree. Okay, so what is that actually going to look like? Basically, in closing here, I like to say that it's going to look like a mess. The Ukrainians are probably going to deny the mineral deal because it's estimated at $500 billion, guys. $500 billion at minimum. That's for an example, an iron ore vein at its current estimate. If it's found to be bigger, the Americans would still have ownership. So it'd be even more money. Again, they gave about $160 billion, and they're looking for a return of $500 billion. So they're also providing no security guarantees, by the way, at all. The security guarantees are alleged to be because American companies will be there, but that's never been a guarantee in the past. Okay, we have American companies here, and they're concerned about giving us security guarantees, saying that we're mooching. So it's certainly something the Ukrainians have watched and are trying to learn from. So they want real, actual guarantees that the Americans will defend them. And the Americans are absolutely refusing to get it. They just want to blackmail them into getting as much ore as they can. Okay, this is Donald Trump's plan. Now, the Congo, again, would be a mess, only if Donald Trump is truly, truly stupid. And I mean that in the full sense of the word. A complete, bumbling idiot. Would he agree to the Congolese proposition and go in there? He will face an insurgency, both a domestic national insurgency as well as a religious jihadi insurgency, because both are active in the Congo. Okay, the M23 rebels are not the only game in town, by a long shot. And many parts of the Congo are extremely remote. Okay, especially where these ore deposits are and they're being harvested. The Ukrainian option is certainly a better one for the Americans, but no matter what way you look at it, it's kind of almost a colonizational style approach. We haven't really seen this sort of deal being struck since the British Empire was floating around as an empire. So, in regards to the geopolitics right now, it is a mess out there. Donald Trump has come in, and a lot of people were hopeful that he was going to stabilize the situation with American power. Excuse me. And now it would appear to be quite the opposite. It would appear that he is going to attempt to be friends with the Russians, but not in the we can be trading partners and everything else, we can stabilize the world together sort of way, but in the way of, no, you're right. Everybody else is the bad guy. And you poor Russia that's invaded a country every 5 to 9 years since it became the Federation in the 90s. You guys are the victim. Yeah. So, we will see how that plays out. And for any information I get, I will certainly put it in the loop for you guys to understand what is going on and the scale of what's going on. Okay. But certainly if you have the time, keep your eyes on that. See if and watch for Ukraine to sign that deal if they do or if they don't, because this is a major turning point, as well as the American reactions to the Congolese offer. Okay, if the Americans go in, and you have somebody in the American military who potentially could be shipped out there to help secure the Congo, I would heavily advise you to say your prayers, I guess, because the Congo is not a safe place. Okay, there's a reason businesses aren't building there, and it's because every few years, if they did, their buildings get destroyed by another revolution or another revolt or another militia group. The nation is huge. It is extremely unstable, and it has the potential to be extremely wealthy, but its own corruption and its own issues have seen it not be, as well as players among the African countries. Okay, so anyway, that's what I got for you guys right now on the geopolitics. I'm going to do another video in a minute, kind of talking about what's going on domestically. But you guys have a great day. Keep your eyes on the Ukraine and the Congolese mineral deals, and we'll see how that pans out, because there's a lot that will affect us in this, even though it doesn't seem like it on the surface. All right? You guys have a great day.